We are getting some new live pictures coming in from the site of those oil facilities attacked in Saudi Arabia last Saturday. Our Hadley Gamble, once again, is live on the ground. Hadley?
Hey, guys. So we are here once again in the mothership, the largest oil and gas stabilization center in the world, here the heart, really, of Saudi Aramco. And as you can see behind me, one of the 5 damaged columns, stabilization columns, here in the heart of the utilities area. This is where the boilers are, the water is. This is where they create the steel that they need for this kind of a plant. Remember, just a few days ago, the defense forces came out with what they said was evidence that Iran was involved in these attacks. They didn't say where it was coming from, the attack, but they did say that these weapons did originate, at least, from Iran. They were talking about 18 UAVs, those are drones, and as many as 7 cruise missiles. Now, some information that I've gotten off record seems to suggest that these attacks were coming in so low that they weren't going to be picked up by any of the massive billion-dollar defense systems that the Saudis have in place, many of them bought from the United States. So if you take a look behind me, you can see once again one of 5 columns hit at this Al-Bakhaik facility that really is the beating heart of the Saudi Aramco facility at large. And what I've found very, very interesting over the last few minutes, listening to the folks here telling us about how quickly they had to get to these flames before the entire facility was at risk. They said they had to get to the flames between 15 and 20 minutes in, or they weren't going to be able to save things like this. So as you can see behind me, one of 5 columns again that was hit. There were at least 18 strikes on this Al-Bakhaik facility alone. And in terms of that rapid response, the explosions we saw, that video that we had coming out over the weekend of the attacks, not just out on Cake, but also Khurais as well, both fields, they said that in terms of the Al-Bakhaik facility, they had the flames under control within 7 hours. But again, that first 15 to 20 minutes, that rapid response time, was critical and crucial to making sure that this facility was able to get back online as quickly as it was. Guys?
Hadley, it's David. You know, I'm curious, to what extent are these going to be able to be repaired on site? Some of the spheroids in particular, I've been told, are fairly complex and might require being fabricated outside Saudi Arabia again and shipped back over there. Are you getting any updates on that?
This is absolutely. So that we've been asking these questions as well. And what was really interesting is already that spheroid that I showed you just a few minutes ago at another area of the Al-Bakhaik facility, they were already working on that, fixing where those, basically whether they were drones or cruise missiles, anybody's guess. They haven't told us that yet. But the holes in that spheroid, they were already well underway in terms of repairing. What we've also been told from officials here on the ground is that they've been most impressed by how the manufacturers who supply the Saudi Aramco have really stepped up and helped them in terms of getting as much material to them as needed as quickly as possible. So we were able to see not just what was happening with the repair of the spheroid just a little way down the road, but we were also able to see one of the plates taken off. I think you can see some of the video that we sent in as we were riding along on the bus, the massive hole in the side of that spheroid plate. And that's the kind of thing that they've had to start repairs on. So again, they were telling me that the manufacturers have really stepped up here and are working very hard with them 24 hours a day to try and get these facilities back up online as quickly as possible. But at the same point, they said it was that critical response time that really enabled them to save as much of the production as they have and to get back up online as quickly as they have. Guys?
Hadley, have they given you any guidance as what they need to do to defend themselves against low-level attacks?
This is a good question, right? So anyway, I've been having these conversations on and off the record. You remember, of course, I asked the oil minister, are you prepared to ask the Americans to come in and help you? Are you prepared to talk about S-400 systems from Vladimir Putin? He essentially said, you're talking to the wrong guy. You've got to talk to the defense minister. When we heard from those defense forces, they were essentially telling us what had happened in terms of what that had been hit and what they thought was coming from potentially Iran there, just not where it was coming from. But they didn't give us any guidance on the systems that they think would need to be put in place, at least not yet, to prevent further attacks of this nature. But again, if you're looking at this from the geopolitical perspective, it all has to do with intelligence, doesn't it? It's eyes on the ground. The best eyes on the ground on Iran, pretty well known in the intelligence community, that's the Israelis, that's Mossad. So if you want to protect yourself from threats coming from Iran, you not only have to work very closely with the Americans, which of course the Saudis have done and will do, and probably are doing at this very moment, but you also have to talk to the Israelis. So this is going to be a bigger question, isn't it? And certainly something to keep an eye on as we head into the General Assembly next week.